Now I have something really exciting, very, very, very exciting for me, because Dr. Jamie Glazov is here, and I've been a fan of his for a very long time. I've read his book, United in Hate. In fact, we even did an ACT meeting where the theme was about his book. You don't even know that. We did it because we were so impressed with your book. Um, Jamie Glazov is the managing editor of Front Page magazine and the author of United in Hate, The Left's Romance with Tyranny and Terror, in which he explains the left's love for and deification of totalitarian ideologies, from Marxism to radical Islam. His most recent book, Showdown with Evil, is a crash course in how to protect American liberty from its totalitarian and terrorist enemies. His father, Yuri Glazov, was a Soviet dissident during the Leonid Brezhnev period and signed the Letter of 12, denouncing Soviet human rights abuses. His mother, Marina Glazov, typed and circulated, oh my gosh, I can't pronounce it, Samizdat, the underground political literature. Mr. Glazov holds a PhD in history from York University in Canada, specializing in Soviet studies and U.S. and Canadian foreign policy. Please help me welcome Jamie Glazov.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. I'm going to explain a little bit. I've only done a power presentation once, so I'm a little bit ghetto at it. But the key is not just to be professional, but at least just to make a point. So I might be a little bit clumsy with that, but the point is what I want to make at least. Oh, I grew up apologizing. Yeah, well, Russian and all kinds of combinations. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. And Nancy, thank you very much. I usually say thank you. Not only do I apologize when I enter a room, I also say thank you to a few people before I proceed. Steve Brown, who's a contributing editor at Front Page magazine, has helped so much throughout the years. I also moved to Los Angeles lately from Canada, and I received some moral support down here, and I'd just like to thank a couple of people. Ray and Barry, can you stand up, please, for your moral support for Jamie? Thank you. And Michael and Adrian Wiener, tremendous moral support. Thank you very much. They're all from the David Horowitz Freedom Center. So look, I've been at Front Page magazine for about 9-10 years now, and that's why I'm here tonight, at least technically, for my book. My latest book, which is Showdown with Evil. And what I've done at Front Page over the last 8-9 years is interviews, among other things. But I've interviewed a lot of people connected to what Nancy was also referring to, which is the unholy alliance, and that's the jihadists and also the forces in our own society that aid and abet them. So Showdown with Evil is a collection of my 29 top interviews with the top leading scholars and thinkers on that issue. And United in Hate, which I will be talking about this evening, and when Nancy was just speaking about what happened, my heart, of course, my whole life, I've been concerned with what totalitarianism does. But one of my main interests is who are the people in this society who not only do not care, but who support what happened in Itamar. And what I'm going to get into a little bit this evening, hopefully not at the risk of boring you, I don't hold that it's naivete or that it's some kind of silly ignorance. I believe that there's a malicious, destructive agenda in the heart of the left. So I dedicated my life, and I wrote this a few years ago, United in Hate, which it's an analysis of why the left is on the side of these monsters. And so let me just begin. By the way, we'll be selling my books, but I'm going to be asking a few questions this evening, and whoever gets the most answers gets a free book. Let me begin with this, and I think this is the point. Because tonight I was thinking, why, sometimes a little bit, I think, what can I say in 45 minutes? What can I say in a half an hour? And sometimes I think, maybe sometimes just talk from the heart and sometimes just about a human issue. And maybe that will make the point. Let me begin with this. Does anybody know who this individual is? Okay, two people have raised their hands, and this is my point. This is what makes me very angry, and why I dedicate my life to what it is that I do. Nancy?
She's one of the girls whose father killed. She killed his father. Her father killed her in an honor killing. I can't remember her name.
Okay, that's yeah.
Aksa Parvez.
Aksa Parvez. Now, one of my points. Thank you, Steve. Well, you already have one of my books, so I think Nancy, do you have one? Or you were close. So, but what's not very funny, and my point is, why in our society? Why does nobody know this girl's name? This is something that's always on my mind. Like the other day, I was listening to a radio station here. I just moved down here, and I put on one station, and there's this YouTube video in some university around here where some girl was saying something about Asian students, and they're upset about racism now. Oh, everybody's really upset about racism. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, maybe that's bad. Okay, I'm not supporting what she did, but I'm not so sure that this girl, like, she's going to be disciplined. There's going to be a million people that are going to hate on her. She's going to have to apologize, maybe even thrown out of school, etc., right? But what I found very interesting is the indignation of the radio station. Oh, this is, and it's so easy. And I was thinking, okay, that's good. Yeah, okay, let's get, okay, is Aksa Parvez next? Is the theology that caused this girl to lose her life are people gonna get indignant about that? And so tonight I want to talk a little bit about why. This is a 16-year-old girl. Her name is Aksa Parvez. She was strangled to death by her father, who's from Pakistan in Toronto. Aksa Parvez wanted to live a normal life. She wanted to be cool. She was 16. She went to high school. She didn't want to cover her face with a black bag. She didn't want to wear any covering. She wanted maybe to go to a dance. This girl didn't even have a bedroom. She didn't have any privacy. This is the culture and religion she comes from. They don't even believe in any individual space, especially for a female. So her bedroom was basically just a hallway that her parents would walk through. Anyway, an arranged marriage was being planned for her, which was terrifying her. She used to hide the veil in her bag. She used to put the veil on and then go to school and take it off, just because, is it a crime that she wanted to be a normal Canadian 16-year-old kid? And anyway, I have to talk about so much this evening, but her father threatened to kill her several times and finally strangled her to death. And I think about Aksa all the time. I think, who did she want to be? What was on her mind? What did she dream of? And she's dead now. And I want to put a face to Aksa, because as I will talk a little bit later, the left hates individuals. It hates the human face. It hates people. And it doesn't want this. So because I've dedicated my life to fighting this monstrosity, I want to put the face of Aksa up here and talk about her a little bit. So to get into that now for a minute, she was killed in an honor killing, and that's her gravesite today. Plot 774. Her family pretends that she never existed. The Muslim community pretends she never existed. Now this strikes a little bit in my heart, because my dad also never existed according to the Soviet regime. This is all very interconnected, because when totalitarian regimes don't like the dissident, not only will they kill him, but they will write him out of history. They will write her out of history. And the left loves this. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But there's no tombstone for her. There's no gravestone for her. Nobody, they want to forget about her. And what really, really interests me is my own personal struggle with the left. So for instance, I am ridiculed, I am attacked, I am called a bigot and a fascist and a racist because I don't like this. So for instance, in Toronto, there's been, especially one guy that I always argued with on a talk show that I used to go on, and I would mention Aksa Parvez, and he would say, "Oh, Glazov, not all Muslims do that." Oh. And then he goes to bed, and then he goes to sleep, and he's sleeping really good. And so I just can't get my head around this. I'm thinking about Aksa Parvez, and Aksa Parvez is not alone. This girl represents millions of young girls, of women. She represents dissidents. She represents people striking for freedom. This is just a symbol. She's a human being herself. But for me to be concerned about Aksa, but at the same time, I'm ridiculed by leftists that I bring this up with. So they call me a fascist, they call me a racist, and their answer is always, "Oh, Glazov, not all Muslims do this." But I never said that all Muslims do this. But I care about Aksa Parvez, and the people that did it were Muslims, and they did it because of something that a certain book says. They did it because of something a certain theology says. And I myself am personally interested in analyzing that theology, discrediting it, so we can prevent more Aksa Parvezes. Doesn't that make sense? Yes. But they don't want to do that. So I'm just very, very interested in also my own personal struggle of being ridiculed and being called names. But I've always wondered, especially, I can name 20 of them off the top of my head, and they'll go, "Oh, Glazov, oh, you're such a fascist." And then they go to bed, and I'm thinking, how does this help the next 20 Aksa Parvezes in the next 5 minutes? So, and I know that the left, there's somewhere in them there's a deep, deep anti-humanitarianism. So they pretend that they're the humanitarians, but they don't care about this. And so I've dedicated my life to fighting this, but also to analyzing it. Now, she has nothing to, this plot 774 represents Aksa Parvez right now. There's no memory to her name. And there's one particular, maybe not a hero for others, but a hero for me. This particular individual, nobody in Aksa's life fought, not even anybody in her family fought for a tombstone, but Pamela did. And Pamela Geller is called a fascist, racist, bigot, all the books in all the names in the world. But she tried to put a tombstone on top of Aksa's grave to, at least for her memory. The family told her, "If you do that, we'll knock it off." And there were so many problems that Pamela was unable initially to do it, but she raised money, and in the American Independence Park in Jerusalem, because of Pamela Geller, a memorial grove has been built for Aksa Parvez. And that's, but it took Pamela Geller, it took a freedom fighter in our society to give memory to that young girl. And I wanted to start with that. I wanted to start with that because this is so symbolic of what, not just what totalitarianism is, but what the left is. Because the left wants to erase the victims. Because if it accepts the evil, then it has to change its entire agenda, and it can't do that. So I'm going to get into that a little bit, but I'm very interested in why it took Pamela Geller almost alone as a freedom fighter to achieve this. Let me go a little bit into the past, just very briefly, to talk about what brings me to this. That is my father, and from the time he was 7 or 8 years old, he told us that he knew that he was born in a prison camp. He knew he was in prison, in a slave camp, and my father wanted to be free. And, you know, there's so many stories I want to tell. There's also a great dissident by the name of Vladimir Bukovsky. He served many years in Soviet jails and psychiatric hospitals. But Vladimir Bukovsky said that he had always felt out of place in the Soviet Union, and when he got to jail, he was like, "Oh, I'm finally home." And because for Bukovsky, prison in a slave camp was where he knew he needed to be, because he didn't want to be a slave in this society, right? A true dissident freedom fighter. So my dad used to look at maps. He was always planning to swim across a certain body of water, and all kinds of things. But to make a long story short, my dad became a dissident.